Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sketching with me. I'm Zoya, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Today, we are going to learn one of the most important concepts every artist should know in any field of art lighting. So, grab your materials and let's get started right away. Stay with me until the end because we'll have a little quiz to make sure you fully understand today's lesson and concept. First, let's draw a circle. Now, let's imagine the light is shining onto this circle from above. But actually, this isn't really a flat circle, it is a sphere. Okay, when light shines from above onto a 3D object, what happens? Usually 3 or 4 different light sections appears on the form. On our sphere, we can see 4 main areas. The first area is the light section. Inside this area, we have the highlight, the brightest point where the light directly hit the surface. After that comes the halftone. Then we have the core shadow. And finally, we have the reflected light. Reflected light is extremely important because it's the light bouncing back from the surrounding environment. If you don't understand this part and you shade everything completely black without leaving the reflected light, your drawing will lose its realism and value. Another important part is the cast shadow, the shadow that falls onto the ground and another surface. The angle, shape, and value of the cast shadow are very important, and later in the lesson, I'll explain how to draw them correctly. Now let's start hatching from the darker side and slowly move toward the lighter areas. One of the most important things when creating a 3D form is understanding the transition between values, especially in a shape like this sphere, where we have different layers of light and shadow. You want those value changes to blend smoothly together, not look harsh or flat. That softness is what gives the form volume and makes it feel realistic. When it comes to hatching, the technique is completely up to you. You can use cross hatching, simple hatching, or any shading style you feel comfortable with. The key is to understand the concept first, use the method that feels more natural to you and one you are practice the most. Now let's talk about the cast shadow on the ground. Since your light sources is coming from above the sphere, the cast shadow stays relatively short and compact, and it feels more rounded rather than stretched. In general, the shape of a cast shadow always depends on the direction and angle of the light. When the light is directly overhead, like in this case, the shadow becomes tighter and closer to the object. But if the light moves lower or more sideways, the shadow becomes longer and more stretched in the direction of the light. So here, because the light is right above our sphere, the shadow on the ground stays small and soft-edged. When you shade this area, pay attention to the transition between the reflected light and the cast shadow. That edge is usually the darkest part because this is where the light is fully blocked. And one very important habit in drawing, never try to make your shadow dark by pressing harder on the pencil. Instead, build your values gradually, layer by layer, using controlled strokes of graphite. The cast shadow on the ground also follows a simple rule. The closer it is to the object's shadow core, the darker it becomes, and the further it moves away from the object, the lighter and softer it gets. In the next circle, I want to show what happens when the light comes from above but also from the side. When the light changes direction, everything on the form changes too. The highlight shifts, the shadow side becomes stronger, and the core shadow gets more defined. Most importantly, the cast shadow moves as well. Instead of staying under the sphere, it stretches away in the opposite direction of the light. So remember, the direction of light always controls where the shadow goes and how it looks. Now pause the video and take a screenshot of this result so you can practice it at home. Try to recreate it yourself step by step. That's the best way to really understand lightning and shadow. And the last angle, the light is coming from the side. Before you look at the result, pause for a second and ask yourself, if the light hits the sphere from the side, what do you think will happen to the shadow? Which area will become darker and which area will stay lighter? Try to visualize it first and then compare your answer with the final result on the screen. This is how you really train your eye to understand lighting, not just copy it, but actually predict it. Now it's quiz time. Take a look at 5 spheres I've drawn and imagine the light hitting them from different angles. Ask yourself, when the light comes from each direction, where will the shadow fall? How will the light side change? And where will the darkest part be? Try to divide each sphere into its main section, the light area, the core shadow, and the reflected light. Pause the video, do this exercise yourself, and then compare your answer with the result on a screen. This is where real learning happens, when you test your understanding instead of just watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.